Most people think of the abs as just a muscle group to flatten or an area of the body to snatch. But in reality, there's so much more than that. Your abs aren't just there for aesthetics. They're central to how you move, stabilize, and generate power. They help you resist rotation, transfer force between your upper and lower body, and protect your spine during high-performance movement. But most core training you see online doesn't reflect any of that. Instead of building real-world function, we chase the burn with endless crunches, fall for the idea that we can spot reduce belly fat, or do exercises that look good for social media but do nothing for athletic performance. But what if I told you there is a better way? In this video, I'll walk you through 5 exercises I use to train my abs like an athlete, not an influencer. We're talking stability, control, and functional strength that actually carries over into everyday life and athletics. Let's get into it. Exercise number 1 is the stability ball, stir the pot. All right, so for this exercise, you're gonna need a stability ball, medium to large size, something to elevate your elbows on. And this is a pretty big jump up from a plank or any sort of plank variation because you're gonna be doing a plank but with your elbows on a stability ball, and then also moving that stability ball so that you have to resist a lot of those rotational demands from this movement. So I'm gonna show you how to do it, I'm gonna walk you through it, and then I'm gonna show you some ways that you can regress it if it feels like it's a little bit too much of a challenge for you right now. So what we're gonna do is get the stability ball in front of you, and you're gonna start on your knees and get your elbows in place first. That's kind of the safest and easiest way to get into it. And I like to have a slight angle with my arms, so my elbows are slightly out and wrists are slightly in. That's just gonna help once you get into this stirring the pot motion. So from there, we're gonna step 1 foot out at a time and get yourself into that plank position. We pretty much want our shoulders right over our elbows, and we wanna think about good plank mechanics. So the straight line basically from the back of your head to your heels. And you can have your feet out a little bit. If you have your feet together for this one, once you start to do this motion, it's gonna be extremely challenging to stabilize. So you do wanna have a little bit of separation with your feet to account for that. And now from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start really small, and you're just gonna make a tiny little circle. And you'll see me already start to shake even just from these little circles, because as you're making these circles, you're having to resist moving through your torso when you're doing it. So we don't want to be moving your whole body around as we're doing it. We're actually thinking about stabilizing as much as possible through your midsection and not moving as you move your arms. All right, and then we're also going to do it in the opposite direction. So usually I'll say do about 5 or 6 one way and then 5 or 6 the other way, and then rest, and that's your set. And what we're really training here is a couple different things. One is anti-extension, and that's with any plank variation. We're training the ability to resist gravity pulling you into this extended posture. So we're pushing away from that, training to resist that. And of course, if you do it on the stability ball, it adds a little bit of dynamic stability demands that you have to resist against as well. So we're still resisting that gravitational pull basically to pull you down by pressing your hips up, pressing into the ball, and trying to stay straight. And then we're also resisting rotational forces once you add in the circles. And that's gonna be much more applicable to real life, where we're not just holding one position, especially in athletics. We're needing to resist different forces that are coming at us. We're needing to stabilize in a more dynamic fashion. And so this is just gonna have a lot more athletic carryover. Now, if you wanna make it more challenging, easy, you can just make bigger circles. So if you're gonna be getting more comfortable with this movement, we just want to start making some bigger circles. The further away from your body the stability ball is, the more of that anti-extension demand. The bigger the circles, the more of that anti-rotation demand. Now, if you want to make this less challenging, we can start by just doing a kneeling plank version. So you're here and you want to extend through your hips. You don't want to be in this position because there's no core challenge here. So you're just going to extend through your hips, and then you're going to make those little circles here. So you're still going to feel your abs, but you want your hips forward, squeeze your glutes a little bit to stabilize. And that's a way to still do the stir the pot movement, but from a modified plank instead. The stability ball stir the pot helps to build anti-extension and anti-rotation strength to help protect your lower back during any explosive movements. It trains total body stability under dynamic conditions. It challenges the core to resist small shifts and perturbations, just like in sports. And it demands shoulder and hip stability simultaneously. Exercise number 2 is the cable, chop, and lift. So I love this exercise because it involves rotation and not only producing rotational force, but also resisting rotational force. So it kind of has two elements in one. And you can do it from all different positions. You can do the lift, which I'm going to show you first. You can do the chop, which is the opposite movement, which I'll show you second. And it really has a lot more athletic carryover than something like a Russian twist, for example, where you're laying on your back and you're just twisting from side to side. With this movement, you're really incorporating that shoulder and hip connection, which is really important for running and sprinting mechanics. You're really utilizing the ability to translate force from your lower body to your upper body through your trunk, which is really what abs are really meant to do, is to be able to translate that force. And so it just has a lot more athletic carryover than those more like floor-based, almost Pilates type exercises. So I want to show you the lift first, and then I'll show you the chop. It's just two different settings when you're on a cable rack. If you don't have a cable machine, you can also do this with a band. You can just wrap a band around something low for this one. All right, so what we're gonna do is grab the rope handle, because that's my favorite way to do this one, and have your thumbs just at the top, gripping the handles here. And I like a split stance for this. You can do it in a bilateral stance, but I think a split stance is much more athletic. So we're gonna start here, and we're gonna start with a little bit of a rotation in, and then you're gonna pull and rotate across your body and up, and then resist the forces on the way down. So we're going more for speed and power on the way up, and then resisting on the way down. But as you resist, you wanna feel your abs really engaging. You wanna be controlled and not just let the weight pull you down, but actually control the movement on the way down. My tonal thinks I'm struggling with weight as I'm explaining this exercise. All right, so again, we're thinking about connecting this hip to this shoulder. So we wanna get the hip and the shoulder almost coming toward each other so that you're creating that engagement through your abs as you pull up. And then again, resist, keep the tension, power, resist, keep the tension. So that would be the lift. The lift is when you're going from low to high. And the way to remember which leg you should have forward is you want the rope to be in open space when it's at the bottom. So if your leg is here, it's gonna hit into your leg. So you want that opposite leg forward. There's open space here. Come on up and down. Now, for the chop, we're basically just doing the opposite. So we wanna raise that arm up high. And now we have our opposite leg forward because we're bringing that rope into the open space again, right? So we're starting up here and we're pulling down, getting that shoulder to hip and resisting on the way up. Pull down, use power, resist on the way up. All right, and again, you can do this in a bilateral stance. You can even do this in a kneeling stance. So you can be here and do a kneeling chop and a kneeling lift. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make this exercise work for your different setup, for your different needs as an athlete. But again, it's that cross-body connection, it's that rotational power, resisting rotation, all of it together makes this one of my favorite athletic ab exercises. Chops and lifts train rotational control and power, which are essential for throwing, swinging, and cutting. They integrate the hips, core, and shoulders in one fluid pattern. They build the ability to transfer force across the body, upper to lower, or vice versa. And they strengthen the core through multiple planes of motion. Exercise number 3 is the hanging leg raise. So this is a great, more athletic alternative to things like crunches, sit-ups, where the only way to make them harder is to do more. And a lot of times that can get, you sort of have like diminishing returns with exercises like that, where you're up to like 50 sit-ups at a time, it's taking a long time, you're not really getting a ton of additional benefits from it. So when we think about training our core, we want to think about our abs as any other muscle group, where we want to progressively overload. We want to continuously challenge them so that you keep making progress and keep getting stronger. And things like crunches and sit-ups, it's kind of hard to do that. So the hanging leg raise trains that same crunching movement, that flexion movement that really targets the rectus abdominis, those six-pack muscles, but it's going to do it in a little bit more of a challenging way that is going to have a little bit more carryover to things that you might see in everyday life in athletics, because you're also having to control your spine in space as opposed to being directly laying on the ground and kind of taking that out of the equation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hang from a bar and we're gonna bring our knees up to our elbows. So it sounds simple, but it's definitely challenging. But we wanna get about a shoulder width grip here. And we wanna think about starting from a full hang and almost with your feet slightly behind you. That's gonna give you a little bit of a stretch through your abs so that you're getting that full range of motion. So just that little bit of stretch, and then you're thinking about bringing your knees up toward your elbows. You're probably not gonna hit your elbows, and then all the way back down. So we're pulling those knees up, one vertebrae at a time, crunching in, and then controlling out all the way to a little bit of an arch, and then repeating. Whew. Now, of course, that is a very challenging exercise. You can start with just a limited range of motion. So you can start by just not going quite as high and then gradually try to work your way up. You can also use elbow straps, so like an ab strap if you have those, where you rest your elbows instead of a full hang. That reduces the range of motion a little bit and can make it a little bit easier. And then if you want to make it harder, which I know you do, you can use a medicine ball in between your knees to load it up. So this way you can start light and work up to more and more weight. You can also use a dumbbell, but I think it's a little bit awkward. I think a medicine ball usually works the best. So you're putting it right in between your knees, coming back to that hanging position. Again, full hang, and then that weight of the ball makes it even more challenging. I can't talk while I do it, to bring the knees up and get into that flex position where you're really challenging rectus abdominis, that midsection, six-pack core muscle. The hanging knee raise reinforces body control in open chain movements, strengthens the hip flexor core connection, critical for sprinting and change of direction, challenges the abs to control pelvic tilt and lumbar position, and builds grip and shoulder stability at the same time, which is a bonus for athletes. Exercise number 4 is the banded dead bug. All right, dead bugs are by far one of my favorite ab exercises. I think they're overlooked. I think people think that they're very beginner, but a lot of people just don't do them correctly, and that's why they might feel easy. But they are such a great exercise for learning how to control your rib cage position. A lot of times, especially athletes, tend to be in a little bit of a rib cage flare, a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt, and we really want to learn how to control that. We really want to learn how to get the rib cage down, because that's going to help you to actually be able to brace and breathe in a more proper position. So the dead bug is gonna teach you how to do that, and adding the band is gonna reinforce that ribs down position, and I'll explain why when I show you. So what we wanna do is, it doesn't have to be a super heavy band, it's really just for a little bit of feedback. So I have this little 1/4-inch band, I think it is, and you wanna wrap it around something that's very stable that you wouldn't be able to pull over. All right, so a squat rack is a good plan, or a pole, something like that. You're gonna wrap it around, lay on your back, and that's gonna be behind you, directly behind you, so that you can get into your position, which is legs at 90 degrees, and then get your arms in position, which is gonna be pulled forward, wrists pretty much over your shoulders. And you can see that when I do that, I automatically go from this kind of ribs flared, little bit of back arch position to ribs down, just because of that band feedback. So it's just gonna help you to get naturally into the right position without having to overthink that position. So we're here, and then from here, we're gonna control one leg at a time, extend out, tap the heel if you can, pull it back in, extend out, and pull it back in. So we're doing that marching with the feet. What we don't wanna do here is pull the other knee too far in, so that you're using your hip flexors to stabilize instead of your abs. So we wanna think about keeping that 90-degree angle so that your abs are doing the work, not your hip flexors. We're stabilizing as we march. And what we want to think about here, as well as keeping the ribs down, is proper breathing mechanics and proper bracing mechanics. There's a concept that we learned from Pavel. You might know him from the RKC or Strong First. He's a kettlebell, Russian kettlebell instructor, and he talked about breathing behind the shield, which basically means imagine that somebody's sitting on your stomach and you still have to breathe, but you can't just let them squish you. You have to brace a little bit. You have to resist them just squishing into your organs, but you still have to breathe. So that's the concept of breathing behind the shield. It's a little bit of a brace. It's a little bit of anticipation that someone might punch you or sit on you, but still being able to breathe as you're doing that. And it's a skill that's really important to learn as an athlete, and the dead bug really gives you the opportunity to do that because it's a slow movement. You can really focus on your breath. So when you're doing it, I want you to also think about your breathing. So you're gonna be here, arms forward. You're gonna inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth as you lower down. Inhale, exhale. And that exhale, you're also gonna feel your rib cage depress down even a little bit more, so it's gonna help you again to control that positioning as your limbs are going in and out. Banded dead bugs strengthen your deep core stabilizers to create a more solid base. They reinforce proper rib cage and pelvic positioning, teaching you to keep your ribs down and core engaged. They enhance anti-extension strength and prevent excessive arching of the lower back during powerful or dynamic movements. And they train cross-body coordination, which is vital for running, cutting, throwing, and just about any sport. Exercise number 5 is a heavy suitcase carry. All right, last one, the heavy suitcase carry. I love this one because it helps you to resist lateral flexion. So the force is pulling you laterally to the side. We're resisting that using the obliques. A side plank is another great way of doing this, and we really like side planks. But similar to what I talked about with crunches, it's hard to progressively overload them. You can start to change the challenge up. You can raise one leg, or you can do dips, you can do Copenhagen's, but it's still all body weight, and it's still not progressively overloading necessarily in terms of getting stronger. And the suitcase carry really allows you to do that because you can just keep upping the weight as you go. So with the suitcase carry, what we wanna do is, I like kettlebells. It's just, I like the way that the weight is sort of distributed for these, but if you don't have them, a heavy dumbbell is totally fine. And you're gonna have it off to one side of you. And if we're doing it heavy enough, we really wanna make sure that we're using proper mechanics to pick it up. We don't wanna be sloppy with this because it's basically a one-sided deadlift. So we wanna make sure you hinge your hips, you come down, and right from the start, you're gonna be resisting that side pull and trying to keep yourself square as you push into the ground and stand up tall. And the first thing you wanna do is just think about your overall body position and your posture. So we wanna get your shoulder down and back. We don't want it to be pulling you down or pulling you to the side. So think shoulder down and back and nice and strong so your lat is actually engaged. And then we're also thinking, I went really heavy. I should have gone lighter for this explanation, but that's okay. We're gonna keep going, we're gonna make it. We're gonna try to think about not allowing it to pull you, but also not doing this. We're not compensating so far that we're leaning the other way. We really wanna get yourself as straight up and down as possible. Once you're there, then you're gonna start to walk, and you're gonna go slow. And as soon as you start walking, you're gonna notice that it's pulling you to the side, and you really have to resist. Once one foot leaves the ground, the forces change, the rotational pull changes, and you have to really work to stabilize. You're gonna feel your muscles all on that other side, really working to make sure that you're not just letting that kettlebell pull you down. Now this is you're gonna see similar things to this exercise online right now, especially with the sort of like influx of Pilates influencers, and I'm not knocking on it at all, but a lot of times you're using really, really light weights and holding one here and one here and just sort of marching in place, and you can tell that it's not that challenging. We really want, if you're an athlete or if you're somebody who's trying to run, jump, sprint, you need to challenge yourself, you need to use heavy weights if you really want to make progress. So by doing the suitcase carry, it's a simple move, but you can load it really heavy and you're really gonna feel a challenge out of it. Heavy suitcase carries help to strengthen anti-lateral flexion, helping you to resist the side bending forces. They train grip, shoulder, and hip stability all together. They mimic the way the core has to stabilize against asymmetrical loads in sports, and they build true functional core strength to help stabilize during sprinting, cutting, and lifting. And there you have it, 5 ab exercises that build real core strength, stability, and athletic function. Add 1 or more of these into your routine and you'll feel the difference, whether you're sprinting, lifting, or just moving through life with more power and control. And remember, your abs aren't just for show. They're built for performance, protection, and helping you move like an athlete. If you're looking for workouts that combine strength, mobility, and athletic performance, check out our free guide, Sustainable Strength. It includes a sample week of workouts to help you train smarter. You can find the link in the description box below. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see from us next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.